Hello everybody, my name is Leandro Ma. In this video I'm going to show you how to use the visibility in different objects inside EcoStruxure Operator Terminal Expert. So let's go to the software. I'm going to start with a new project using the EcoStruxure Operator Terminal Expert version 3.2 Service Pack 1. The first thing that I'm going to do is to change the target that I'm using. I'm going to use the 6.4 landscape. And now, in order to show you how to work with visibility, let's just go to the help. In most of the objects, we have this property, the visibility. And with the value 0, the object becomes visible. If you change the value to 1, it will be hidden, and 2 for collapse. But in order to use this, the best option is to use this type of contents that I'm going to show you now. So let's start by creating contents here. As I show you in a different video, I already explained the difference between the canvas and the view box. So I'm going to start using the view box over here. So I'm going to use this content ID, which is content ID is different from the screen ID already explained before. So in this content, I'm going to add a grid. Going to change the size of the grid. This one is 800. Going to change the position 0, 0. I'm going to add some options here. Okay. I'm going to add some text over here. Let's change the font to 55. Control C, Control B. Hello. Control C, Control B. War. And now what I'm going to do is to create another content. Okay. Let's just copy this content and change the objects. When I copy and paste, it asks me to create a new one, new content ID. I'm going to change this to a different object. Touches, this one, this one, this one, this one. And let's create the last content. Copy and paste it. 103. And instead of showing all this, just one. So what I'm going to do now is to show in the first screen that I have the content. So in order to do this, we need to go to the screen, add the content display and call it 1. You can see here the content display using the view box. It resizes everything. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is to create a variable to change the visibility. So if we go to variables, here I'm going to select an integer, ICMD visibility. Okay, now, as I mentioned before, the objects have on the shape, size, location, visibility property, and you can see visible, hidden, and collapse. So we can link this property of the object to a variable. We're going to link it to this variable that I have here. So when I change the value of this variable, it will affect the visibility. I'm going to add another object, for example, lips again. Okay, I'm gonna resize it. And if we go shape, size, location, visibility, variable, visibility. So now what we need to do is to add a numeric display to change this visibility. Variable, visibility, and there we go. So let's simulate this to see the behavior. Okay, it's in the other side. There we go. So as I mentioned before, the value 0 allows you to see the object on the screen, and the value 1 will disappear the object. So if we change this to 1, it disappears from the screen. And the collapse in this case will do the same, okay? But I recommend to use the hidden for this case, and we're going to see in a few seconds, minutes, how we can use the collapse with a different type of content. So if we press 2, 0, it would show the elements. So we can link the property visibility for the objects to a variable to change the visualization, how we want to show them on the screen. Let's continue. So let's close this. So if we need to download this to a real target, my recommendation is to create always a second screen. Okay, canvas, second screen, where you have the hardware configuration. So in case you need to make some changes, you have access to the hardware configuration. Let's add it quickly. Operation type, screen change, previous. Now let's copy this and paste it on the first so we can access to the system. ID, a specific ID, number 2, because it's the screen, this one that we have, ID 2. Okay, so now, in order to see the, the visibility for the collapse, I'm going to create different contents. So this content, add content, going to add the dock panel and content ID 1. I'm going to add the in content ID 2 the stack panel, and I'm going to add on the content ID 3 the uniform grid panel. So let's change the name. This one is uniform grid. This one, it was the stack panel, content stack panel. And this one was the dock panel, dock panel. So now let's see the difference between all this. So if we go to the dock panel, the first one that we have added, let's go to the content display. We just drag and drop over here, content displays. You can see how we distribute everything over here. So we can go here and then select what we want to show, 101, 102, and 103. Okay, you can see here how it distributes everything. And if I delete one, it resizes everything. So I'm going to call it again, 103. Okay, now let's see how it works in the stack panel. Okay, let's add here. In the stack panel, you can define the orientation. The stack panel, you can define how it's going to organize the content that you have. In this case, if it's vertical, one after the other one. If it's horizontal, you're gonna stick one content and then the other one next and the other one next. Just let's see this. So I'm going to add some contents here. Going to add another one, another one, another one. You can see here is start adding, and it doesn't matter the size that you have, okay? Because if you call this one in the original, um, you can scroll to see the complete list. So let's change this, add only 3 over here. Gonna call the 101. You're gonna see this when I simulate the object 103. So let's change these to instead 200, so 400, 400, and 400. As you can see, the size of this is higher than the one defined for the screen, which I believe is 480. So later we're gonna see this behavior much better. And now the uniform grid. So let's add here content display, just drag and drop over here. So the uniform grid, it just uniformly, it just distribute the contents on the content that you have. So now I'm going to call this once again 101, 102, and 103. So inside these 3 contents that I have here, I'm calling these other contents just to see how it changes. What I usually do on this kind of uniform grid, let me just change this, uniform grid, is to define the grid as a row in one, so you can see everything in one row. Later, we're going to see how this works. So what I want to do now is on the first screen, I'm going to delete this one. And I'm going to delete this one also. Going to start again. Going to call a new content display. And instead of calling these 3 contents independently, I'm going to call each of these ones. So I'm going to start with this one, 101. No, sorry, content 1. You can see how is the visualization of the dock panel. So let's create a navigation for this. Let's go to the variables. I'm going to create an integer ICMD navigation screen 1. So I'm going to Control C, Control V. This one will be the navigation for my screen. Variables, navigation, direction 2. Now I'm going to link this content to a variable for the navigation. Okay. Okay, let me just resize everything here. And now what I'm going to do is to play a little bit. So just to show you how the hide and the collapse works, I'm going to create for each content that I have created here, okay, a different variable so you can really see how does it works. So let's go to the variables. Going to create for this one another one, visibility 101, 102, and 103. So what I'm going to do now is to in each content I have here, shape visibility, going to link to a variable, the variable I have already defined. So here I'm going to do the same variable 102, 103. There we go. Here the same on this stack. Variable 102, 101, this one 102, and this one 103. The latest one, uniform grid, which is the one I usually work. This one, variable 101, 102, and 103. Okay, good. So I have link for each content inside the content doc panel, a variable to visualize the content display. So uniform grid, okay, just go to the screen. Now I'm going to create variables for each content to visualize so you can really see what's going on over here. 102, Control C, Control B, Control B again, 2 and 3. Okay, so I'm almost there. Good. So let's simulate to see the behavior. Simulate device. So what I'm going to show in here now is the content doc panel. So I need to enter here the number 1. You can see all the objects are shown on the screen. And what happens if I hide, for example, this one? You can see that this place is empty. Okay, let's show that again. And this one, if I press 1, this is empty. Okay, but you can see the separation between the different contents. And now if I press collapse, it will try to override the space of the other content. So in this one, if I press 2, change the value to 2, you can see that the content on the right try to uh, replace the size, replace the volume on the area of the other content. Okay, that is one of the things that you can do on this. So for example, in this case, if I only want to show one of these 3 contents on the screen, we just need to select 2 for all of them, except for one that I want to show. For example, if I want to show the object content 2 that I have here, the 102, this one should be in 0, so I can occupy the complete area that I want to show with one content. If I want the first one, this one should be 0, and this one and 2. So this is the magic of the collapse in this kind of software that we have. Let's continue with now with the stock panel, which is the content number 2, ID content 2. You can see here how it works. Okay, the stack panel is just put all the contents one next to the other. Okay, if we use the vertical, if you use the horizontal, it would be the other way. So here, for example, I have the content 100 and then the content 102 here in the middle, and this one the 103. So if I hide the second object, you can see there is a empty space over here. Okay, but if I collapse now, okay, you can see there's empty space. Collapse, it just move the content that I have below into the other position. If I now collapse this one, the first one, the third content is gonna take place on the other one. So 2, and we only have one content here. That is the magic. That's why it's different the hidden than the collapse. Okay, so there are 2 different things. If you use the hidden, you just have an empty space over there, but if you collapse, you can like move or override the other area that you have depending on the content that you are using. So the last one, the uniform grid, so you can equally divide the area that you have in the content that you can see, depend on the hidden or the collapse. So if I collapse this one, all of them have the same size. If I don't want any one of them, just one. to display. So this is how you can work with visibility objects and visibilities for different kind of content that we have. And the other thing that I want to mention is we use, for example, the value 0 to visualize the object and the number 1 to hide the object. Now, if we want to use the other way around, for 0 to hide the object and 1 to show the object, for example, if you're using an alarmist and you want to see the icon over there, probably the best way is to use converters for that. So let's see how we can do this. So let's close this. Okay, and what we need to do is to go here, converters. We need to select range, if I'm not wrong. So converter visibility, I'm going to name this range. So we have the source name, the source type of variable will be numeric, and the output will be numeric. I'm going to select 3 in this case. So if the input value, for example, the object value, or the how can I explain this, if the value of the variable that we want to visualize something or change is 0, we will need to have the number 1 because it's going to be the other way around. So in here, if the input is 0, the output of that converter will be 1, and if it's 1, the output will be 0. And if it's something else, just put 2 to collapse. It doesn't matter in this case, but it will be the other way around. It's like to create a note in the HMI software. Let's continue. So we have already created a converter. And now what I'm going to do is to, for example, go here, content 1, and change the visibility of this object. So ellipse 2, visibility. I'm going to change the visibility of this one using a variable, the first one I had created, and I'm going to use a converter here. So visibility converter, okay. And now what I'm going to do on the first screen is use that variable to visualize and change the value. So you can see it's linked to that. Now let's simulate this. Send it away. There we go. So let's use only this content 101. And here the value is 0. So in this case, I have created a converter. So if it's 0 now, the object will be hidden because as using the converter to 0, it goes to 1. And then if I change this value to 1, okay, it will go to 0 in the other way. Okay, so in this way you can use the converter to visualize an alarm or a change of status if you use positive logic. So this is one way to do it. And you can also use a script to change the visibility of objects. So let's close this and let's play it a little bit with the same content here. Ellipse visibility 2. I read it wrong. Visibility 2. So we can create here a switch visibility. So if I have the visibility here, I'm going to create a screen script, one touch, and when I touch that switch visibility, I'm going to change the status. So if else I'm going to make a comparison here. If the object, the ellipse visibility 2, is visibility dot visibility. Okay, if the value of this one is 0, I'm going to change that to visualize. Let me just find the to change value change here. I'm going to change the value of this object, the visibility property, because I'm accessing directly to this, to be hidden. Okay, and if it's hidden, it's going to be visible again. I believe this should be working fine. So let's go to the screen. So every time I change this content or I press this, it's gonna change the visibility of this object that I have here. So if I simulate, I bring here this way, 101. Probably get it wrong. Let me just double check. Script visibility. Here, the other way around. My bad in there. 101. It changed the value. Okay. When I was doing the script, I haven't changed this value to 0. Okay, to change. So now every time I click on this button, it would change the visibility property directly to the object. So now what I want to show you is how you can fill this on the real HMI. So if we let me just download this into the HMI so you can see how it feel like. 64, Ethernet, download. I already have an HMI with these properties over here. 264 transfer method. Okay, I believe there's something else. No, that's it. Let me just double check if I can ping the device. Okay, we are connected. Now let's download this. Okay. Okay, let's transfer. Now let's see here on the HMI. Okay. Okay, now I have opened the port to download via Ethernet. Now it's downloading. Okay, that's why it's good to have the hardware configuration to download. So, okay, close. Let's maximize this so you can see it. Okay, let's wait for this to finish. Okay, so let's see. If I go to the number 1, you can see this behavior. So this one was the dock panel. So if I change this to 1, you can see there is an empty space over there. But if I press number 2 now, it will resize. Okay, and that is important thing to use ViewBox so you can resize everything on the screen. And if I press this one to be in 2, collapse, this object will resize to complete all the area they have defined. So 2, they are good. And let's see, every time I press this one, it changes its value. Okay, let's visualize everything again. Now let's try with the other one, which is the I believe it's stock panel. So if we this one is the scroll, you can see on the screen. So if I hide only the middle one, you can see the empty space in the middle. Okay, if I select two, the other one will be in that position. Okay, it will allocate in a different area. So let's show that again here, number 0 to show everything. Now let's use the other one, number 3, which is the uniform grid. So you can see these 3 objects. Now if I hide this, you can see the empty space, but if I collapse, it will resize. If I hide this one, you can see this one is the content ID number um, 3 that I have here. So in this video, I have already showed the different ways to visualize objects or content display using the visibility property. You have the 0 for show the variable, the 1 to hide it, and the number, no, 0 for show, 1 for hidden, and 2 for collapse. We also saw how you can use the converter, so you can use the other way around for the hidden and show. So basically, I believe I already explained most of the functionalities for the visibility of Operator Terminal Expert. So thank you very much for watching this video, and I see you on the next one.